Hi, everybody. This is Delana Cotton with the Cotton Home team at Virtual Properties Realty, and we serve the greater Atlanta area. So thank you for joining us today. Now, our segment today is going to be how long does it take for the buying process and what that entails. Now, let's go ahead and get started and chat a bit about getting a pre-approval. Pre-approval, you'll need to speak with a lender, and of course that lender is going to collect information from you and also do a hard pull on your credit profile. The type of information that a lender is going to request that you send them is a copy of at least the past 2 paycheck stubs, the past 2 months of your bank statements, the past 2 years of your tax returns, along with your social security card, i.e. a photocopy of it, and a photocopy of your driver's license. And those are just the documents to get started. Now, once the lender pulls your credit and they do a credit profile, they will be able to determine what your baseline pre-approval amount is. Now, that is your initial amount. If things do change on your credit profile, that amount could actually change. So once you have determined what that pre-approval amount is, you'll be able to know exactly what type of homes and price point you and your future realtor will be able to start looking in. Now, while you are collecting the information from your lender, one thing that you do want to chat with them about is, do they have the ability to supply any funds towards down payment and closing costs through a grant program or through a down payment assistance program. Not all lenders have access to these, and you will need to make sure that you're working with a lender who does in case you do need those funds. Now, additionally, while you are working with this lender and getting your pre-approval, make sure that you do ask the lender for a fee sheet. This sheet is an estimate of everything that would be included or potentially included for funds for the purchase of a house in the price point that you'd so desire. It's going to project out the down payment and closing costs, how much the interest rate is, along with your appraisal and additional pertinent information. So make sure that you do get that fee sheet from the lender, because if you do decide to shop around for lenders to see who's going to have the best price, i.e. interest rate, and the best incentives, you'll be able to compare apples to apples, okay? Now, let's go ahead and start talking about finding a local realtor. So once you get that pre-approval, your next step, if you haven't already done so, is to find a realtor in the area that you are interested in purchasing in. You can do this by working with your family and friends and just asking them who they have used in the past when they were purchasing their home. Another thing that you can do is check out Google reviews for different realtors in your local area. Now, when doing that, you want to make sure that they do have high reviews and that they actually service the area that you are looking to purchase in. The next thing, once you have identified 1 or 2 realtors, is actually meet with that realtor. You can either do that in person or you can do that online for your initial consultation. While you're meeting with the realtor, make sure that you get all of your questions answered that you have right away, that you guys discuss the market, and you discuss the desires that you have in the home that you wish to purchase. Okay? Once you have met with that realtor, your realtor will be able to set you up with an online search profile if they already haven't done so. Now, When choosing a realtor, also make sure that they utilize the current technologies. And not only that, that they do have the ability to take on new clients. Because when you are working with a buyer, you want to make sure that that realtor has the ability to actually take the buyer out looking for properties. Now let's continue on and talk a bit about the house hunting process. So once you have gotten your pre-approval from your lender, you are going to share that information with the realtor that you have chosen. You should also go ahead and make a needs versus wants list if you already have not done that. This may include the number of bedrooms that you need in your home, the number of bathrooms. Do you need a particular type of yard? Do you need a 2-car garage versus a 1-car garage? Or maybe you actually need a basement, okay? The other thing that you should zero in on is the area that you wish to purchase this home in. Also, go ahead and let your realtor know the type of home style that you are looking for. Are you looking specifically for a ranch home? Are you looking for a 2-story home? Are you open to different styles? Maybe you wish to have a bungalow type style home. Also, if you do need a basement type home, make sure that you let your realtor know so they can set up your profile that's going to bring in homes that match your desire. Now, the other thing that you need to determine is for the amount that you have been pre-approved for, does it meet your current needs? So will you be able to buy the house of your dreams in the area that you desire, along with the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and a garage if need be, and if that is actually going to be a possibility within that price point? Now, if it's not, then you should discuss with your realtor how you guys can work together and determine what other areas you may be able to look in that will accommodate all of your needs and wants for the price that you have available. Now, if it does turn out that you're unable to purchase in the area that you so desire, then make sure that you have worked with your realtor to determine what other areas, like I said, that you would be able to purchase in. And if the price point is still an issue, then go back, chat with your lender, and see if your lender has any suggestions that they could do to improve your credit profile and your purchase ability. Because maybe there is something that you can do in the short term that will allow you as a buyer to purchase more home. Now let's go ahead and start looking at what it looks like when you're making an offer. So before you start making your offer with your realtor on a particular property, I hope that your realtor has sat down with you and gone over the paperwork that's going to be involved in your transaction. Now, I recommend doing this ahead of time before making your first offer, because in the current market, which is a seller's market right now, houses come on the market and they go off so quickly, i.e. under contract, that it's just beneficial to know exactly what the paperwork is going to look like in an offer. And that way, if you have any questions of your realtor, they'll be able to answer those ahead of time. Now, once you have selected the house that you wish to make an offer on, make sure that you are presenting your strongest offer first. Now, your realtor will be able to run a market analysis to determine if that home is priced right, what's going on in the market and if buyers are having to go above the list price, etc. So make sure that you do have a conversation with your realtor up front to make sure that your offer is going to be one of the strongest offers possible, hopefully securing you the home of your dreams. As I mentioned, this is currently a seller's market here in Atlanta, and that means that there are many buyers looking at homes, but unfortunately, there are not a lot of homes on the market. And that's the reason why you need, as a buyer, to come out of the gate making your strongest offer up front. Now, the other thing that you need to do if your offer is accepted by the seller is once you start the negotiation process on items that have been identified, if any, from a home inspection report, to make sure that you are negotiating on items that are deemed necessary, i.e., does that roof need to be replaced? Is there heating and air issues? And not just on something like, oh, you don't like the paint color in the home and you wish to have the owner change out the paint color or give you monies towards that. Another thing is, is the carpet worn, and do you really need to ask that seller to replace the carpeting? Because remember that from the home inspection, a seller does not have to make any repairs to the property. Okay, so just make sure that you are being realistic in the negotiating process and that you will be able to keep the home secured and get to the closing table. Now, another part of making your offer is that you will have to do an earnest money deposit. Typically, this is going to be 1% of the actual purchase price of the home. So make sure that you have those funds in your account, because most times you will be required to submit those within 1 to 3 days of the contract going binding. And a binding contract, again, is one where all parties have signed off and the contract has been accepted. So next, we are going to talk about what happens once the offer is accepted and is sent over to the lender. Now, once all parties have received the contract, again, it has gone binding, your realtor will go ahead and submit all of the paperwork over to your lender. Your lender will review the file and prepare it for underwriting. During that time frame, an appraisal will be ordered, and note that this is a cost to you, the buyer, but it will be credited back to you upon closing at the closing table. And it will be included on that fee sheet that I mentioned earlier. During this process, the lender will also go ahead and ask you for additional documents along the way. So just make sure that you go ahead and whatever is needed by the lender, that you do get those to the lender as soon as possible. Now, at the same time of the lender receiving the contract, a home inspection is ordered, and the contract is also sent over to the closing attorney's office. Now, we're going to move on next to what happens during the home inspection process. So a home inspection is not something that is mandatory, but it is highly recommended. It is done by a qualified professional, and they come in and they take a look at the home from top to bottom. It's a process that's going to take approximately 2 hours, maybe more, depending on the size of the house and if it is a home that has a basement or not. Now, home inspection reports typically are fairly lengthy. Don't be surprised when you get yours back if it's, 20 to 40 pages. It doesn't mean that, there's a lot of things wrong with the house in most cases. What happens in a home inspection is that there are an awful lot of pictures identifying things in the home like your hot water heater, your furnace, your air conditioner units, different plumbing, your electrical panel, and all of these pictures do take up room. And they also take a look at the roof. So there'll be pictures of the roof as well. And also in that report, there will be information to help guide the future homeowner, i.e. yourself, along any possible repairs that may be needed in the future. And that's what makes this report so long. Okay. Now, once you do get the report back, which will probably be the next day after the home inspection is done, what you should do is review that report in detail with your realtor. During that review process, go ahead and determine if there are any major ticket items that have been identified in this home inspection report that you wish to have the owner repair. If there are, then your realtor will draw up the necessary paperwork to send back out to the seller of the property, and it will identify the items that have come up on the inspection report that you are asking that the seller actually take care of prior to closing. So work with your realtor on this in terms of what items you should ask for and which items you should not ask for. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of things go on simultaneously in the process. So we are now going to talk about what happens with your paperwork being sent over to the attorney's office. And this takes place at the same time as the documents going over to your lender. What your attorney's office does is they will start gathering information on the property that's going to include taxes, HOA information, if there is one, along with the lender, just to name a few. They will also go ahead and pull the title of the property and make sure that it is clear and free of any issues. If it's not, then they will work to get any issues on the title resolved prior to closing. Now, you may be wondering how many days it's been since you have actually gone binding to this point. So it will probably be about a 2-week time frame that the lender has been working on your paperwork along with the closing attorney's office. And by then, we are starting to look for what is called a clear to close. And we're going to move into that slide now. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the clear to close process. A clear to close is issued by the underwriting department once the file has been fully reviewed. Now, when it comes out of underwriting, there may be conditions that have been identified that the buyer must take care of prior to closing. Now, your underwriter will go ahead and let you know what those are. Make sure that if you do have items that need to be addressed, that you address those very quickly, because there's only going to be a few more days prior to your closing. Also remember that during this process, at any time, the lender can pull your credit and check your employment status. It's usually done multiple times throughout the loan process. So please don't be surprised if that is done again. Now, once all of the paperwork has been submitted, you've gotten your clear to close, the lender will also send you a copy of a preliminary closing disclosure that you will need to sign. and you need to take care of that as soon as you do receive it. Now, please make sure that you review all of the numbers on this document with your realtor, if you have questions, or with your lender, because this document is going to indicate how much monies you need to bring to the closing table. And those monies will actually be wired to the closing attorney. So make sure that you know that dollar amount ahead of time, and that you do have all of the wiring instructions from your closing attorney prior to your closing. Now let's continue on and take a look at what takes place on a closing day. So congratulations, you've actually made it through about 90% of the process. On your closing day, you should meet with your realtor at the property that you are purchasing prior to the closing, okay? Make sure that you have all of your identifications, your driver's license, maybe a second form of ID, for all of the parties that will be signing the documents at the closing table. Also, it's highly recommended that you bring your checkbook. And if you do not have a checkbook, then obtain a single check from your banking institution in case the dollar amount that you did wire was not quite enough to cover all of the funds at closing. This will allow you to write a check if needed to the attorney's office to make sure that you will be able to fund and receive your keys. Now, also make sure that you plan accordingly, because many times a closing will take about 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer. But in the event that it takes longer than that, we want to make sure that you do have enough hours allocated for the closing. Because one thing that you can't do is receive the keys to your new property until the property, i.e. the loans, have funded. And if it is taking a long time for the funding to take place, then please go ahead, reach out to your lender and find out what is taking so long, because it is possible that the wire transfers just had not taken place up to that point. So communicate with your lender if it is taking a long time. So from the time that your contract has gone binding, it's probably been approximately 30 days from that date until your closing date. So congratulations again, you have made it to the closing table. Now, this concludes my latest video on how long it takes for a purchase of a home. Thank you so much again for joining me. And if there's anything that I can answer for you, please feel free to pause the screen and copy down my contact information. If you like this video, go ahead, click the like button, and also make sure that you have subscribed to my channel so you receive automatically any additional videos as they are posted. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.